Hello, everyone. My name is Valeria Galindo Lasprilla. I am a student of the Pontificia Javeriana University, and today I will talk about the economic problems left by the pandemic in Colombia and France. As you can know, the pandemic began in 2020 due to COVID-19, which is an infectious disease caused by the coronavirus that causes people to have serious respiratory problems, causing them, in the most of the serious cases, death. That year was the starting point that changed our life completely, giving it a turn of 360 degrees. On March 6th, the Ministry of Health confirmed the first case of coronavirus in the country. That came from a 19-year-old patient who had contact with 16 more people. Taking into account that more people were rapidly infected, Colombia launched a decree for the period of a mandatory preventive isolation that would last from March 24 to April 12. Having a mandatory quarantine, many of the sectors begins to fall economically as the artistic and recreational activities that represents the 37.1%, the commerce that represents the 34.1%, and the construction that represents the 33.2%. Taking into account that data that give us the 40% that represents the gross international product of the country and approximately the 50% of jobs, causing more than 1.5 million of Colombians get unemployed. The reason that get unemployed was because they could not go to their work sites because there was no mobility, and also that the people in charge of the companies did not have enough money to pay each of their employees, except for the people who work in establishments such as hospitals, drug addresses, and supermarkets, and also the people who had the opportunity not to be unemployed by changing their mode of the work in a virtual way. Taking into account that people had more concerns in the economic and physiological parts, since you could only be at home, Colombia began to lift the quarantine by locations, to be able to send a family member to buy things that will be needed, and be able to go out for a while with all the secured measures. Thanks to the COVID-19 vaccination campaign that has allowed 74.8 million doses that helped the country to open more establishments and gradually recover the economy of the country, since it could be better controlled by infection. To this day, Colombia is leaving behind the third wave of the pandemic, living like this: 139,820 deaths, 6,095,000 of confirmed cases, 5,928,000 recovered, and 2,091 active cases. On January 24, France health authorities confirmed the first case of coronavirus that came from a 50-year-old man and his wife. Knowing that more people had also infected, the President of France declared on March 27 a mandatory quarantine until April 15, and also decided to close their borders and test all the people who came from abroad to put them in a safe place or avoid infections. Having a mandatory quarantine, many of the sectors began to fall economically as the gross domestic product fell 6% in the first quarter of 2020. As you know, the economy of France is the fifth largest economy in the world. Among the most affected sectors are the agriculture that represents the 2.2%, the industry that represents the 20.3%, and the service that represents the 77.4%, causing that 5.8 million of French people get unemployed. By taking into account the number of people who were left without work, France launched a program called France Relance, in which it consists of a recovery plan of 100 billion euros, in which it seeks to have a new green energy, new transport, and industrial innovation. As its three divisions says above, we can find first, that is on business competition, in which there will be a reduction in manufacturing taxes, which will cost 10 billion euros per year, which aims to benefit small and medium enterprises. The second is the employment, in which the particular unemployment rate is addressed among young people, people with low income and the most vulnerable communities, that seek through 1,300 million euros to create programs to incorporate young people to work. And the third one, that is ecology, in which that is 6,700 million euros to improve the isolation of housing and public buildings, along with new incentives to help companies develop intelligent and sustainable solutions for the mobility. From my point of view, in my experience in the pandemic, gave us like positive points and negative points. In the negative points, I emphasize that it was very hard to listen to close people to show like their feelings of sadness when they received any news that some relative had died from COVID-19, and also lasting so many days locked up without being able to have a contact with more people. In the positive points, I highlight that I could have more time with my family, and I could have as more time to carry out like different activities, and also that some days one felt that the time was very fast and the other days was very short.